Greetings, and today we are just continuing on with part 2. Both part 1 and part 2 will be released today. So again, just a reminder, if this is your first time in the channel and you haven't seen part 1 yet, definitely go take a look at part 1. I'll leave a link in the description below. And if this is your first time here, I like to make Gwent videos, so if that's your thing, do leave a subscribe on the channel. It would be great. So we just sort of went through, I think, how many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 rows of cards. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8.5 rows left to go. So this will probably be definitely a longer video. So starting off, we sort of just continued off from here. We're just gonna go straight to the next card. We have the Ofir Merchant. So on deploy, you can swap the top card of your opponent's deck with yours. This would probably be good on a Nilfgaard style deck because again, they're good at, you know, being able to see what you have in your hand, what you have in your opponent's hand, and you can also manipulate what card, you know, can be moved to the top of your deck, stuff like that. So the Ofir Merchant could be good here if you want to move like a really bad Nilfgaard card that might not work for them to the top of their deck. Ofir Merchant could do that for you. So I think this card fits really well as a Nilfgaard card. But you know, it is neutral because he is just a merchant from the Blue Mountains. It's the wrong fantasy world. But anyway, yeah, we got that. Next card we have a Caro Ballista. We have an order card, damaging enemy unit by 2, but if it is surrounded by 2 soldiers, then you gain 2 armor. So this is sort of, I wouldn't say a weaker version of the, what do you call that? Of just the I think it's just a regular ballista, I think. Because of the ballista, it's you damage it by 1, and then on order you damage it by 2. This one's just damage a unit by 2, but you do get that 2 armor, which is cool. So it could prevent you from, like, let's say a Dwarven Berserker. This could shield you from losing points and stuff like that. And it is a 5/5, so in terms of points, it is pretty strong. And if you can keep it there long enough, it'll be a 7/5. So there's that. Next is the Barghest, another consume card. And on dominance, you can consume an allied unit. Now the thing with consume monster is you're creating a lot of points because cards are eating each other up for monsters. That's what they specialize in. So this card could potentially let you do it twice. So you gotta have a lot. There's a lot of consume cards coming into this expansion as well, as I've noticed. So Deathwish monster is getting a sort of, you're getting more like variety. So you're no longer have to relying on Slizzards, on the, I think the Endrega insect or Endrega warrior or something like that, the one that lets you consume adjacent units, or the Barbagazi. You got other sort of you got alternatives as well to other cards that you can use to consume, and Barghest is a decent one for that because you're guaranteed to consume, which is something you did not really see in the other bronze cards except again for the Endrega warrior. And yeah, and you get to do it again if you have a really strong unit, so that'd be pretty cool. Next, you got Bloody Good Friends. I like this one. It's pretty funny because I thought about Bloody Good Fun. So there's now 2 BGFs, which is cool. And on fee 1, give an enemy unit bleeding for 1 turn. If it's boosted, damage it by 1 instead. You can either use a coin or insanity to get that ability. So it's good for, again, it's just similar to like the Dinham Longship in Skellige where you can damage units by 1. Except this one, you can do it all in 1 turn, whereas the Longship, you have to do it once per turn. So this card is technically stronger in that ability. Next, we got a Noon Wraith. It's a 6/4, and on Deathwish, you spawn 2 enemy rats in a random enemy row. This is good because it's a 6/4, but it's not good because it's most likely going to be a target for your opponent because they decide to get rid of the Noon Wraith and they get their own 2 rats on the board. They're probably not going to be able to do much with them if they're not any other faction, I guess, other than monsters. But, you know, they get benefits from destroying this card. So you want to be careful with this one as well. So you always want to be careful of those cards that are much stronger than their cost because there's always sort of some sort of consequence that goes with it. So it looks like we're coming into the scenario cards. Now, scenario cards are pretty interesting. They're artifacts, but they sort of they have progression abilities, which means their abilities change depending on if they can stay long enough and if you keep progressing it by fulfilling their conditions. So Northern Realms' condition is Siege. So whenever you play a Siege engine, so we're probably talking Trebuchets, Ballista. So it looks like they're adding the Siege engine tag. So if you play like 1 Siege engine, then you can spawn a Reinforced Trebuchet in your range roll. So this is giving you rewards sort of the more you fulfill its conditions. And if you play another Siege engine after that, I don't think Reinforced Trebuchet works. I think it's just a machine. I'm not sure if they're gonna count that as a siege engine. Otherwise, you can just go straight into your chapter 1 and chapter 2 in 1 turn, and that's a little bit unfair. but I'm not sure. I haven't seen them in action yet. So you can spawn a reinforced trebuchet, which is a good damage engine. On chapter 1, you can spawn a battering ram, which I believe lets you damage a unit by 2 or 3. I can't remember. And on chapter 2, you can spawn and play bombardment. Bombardment, I believe, lets you damage a unit by 3, and it's adjacent units as well. I can't remember, but yeah, you definitely you get rewards. So this card progressively gets more powerful, sort of the more you fulfill its conditions, which is why they're hella expensive at 14. So it makes sense. Next is the Skellige scenario. So this one is supporting druids. So you can spawn a Crow Clan Preacher, Crow's Eyes Rizomi, and Mardroam. I'm not sure if I saw Crow Clan Preacher, but we did see the Crow's Eyes Rizomi. So it's allowing you to sort of summon more crows. I'm not sure if we saw the Crow Clan Druid. I think it's this one. Is it Crow Clan Druid? I can't remember. No, Crow Clan Preacher. Okay, I can't remember what that is, but you kind of get the idea. Oh, this one, right? It's this one. So again, giving you benefits to sort of support the archetype better. So yeah, we got Get In Neath, I think is for Skellige. This one is not a scenario, but it is for Skellige. It is Giga Scorpion Decoction. You can damage a unit by 1/6 times. I found a cool thing with this is you can actually sort of use this as a combo with Heim. Because if you have an opponent that uses a pretty strong unit, actually it might not be that good because you damage a unit by 1/6 times, and the highest base power I've seen is I think only 13, but even then if you lose all its armor it's dead. So your strongest really is 12. So you can switch Heim with a 6 power card and they'll get the 1 I think or 2. But this one is sort of the focused version of Delirium, where instead of damaging it by 1, you damage it by 6. You spread 6 on a row, you just damage a 1/6 times. So that's pretty cool. I'm not sure what combos I can make with this, but I'll have to go look at the deck. Next, we got the monster scenario card. So these are all scenario cards, again, played as artifacts. And this one supports Death Wish. So whenever you play Death Wish, the first Death Wish you play, you'll be summoning a Desert Banshee. Then it's Barghest, then it's Night Wraith. So I like how they're adding wraiths, sort of specters, I guess they're called, but they're going to be mostly wraiths as cards into the game, which is pretty cool. But again, it's sort of support where it gives you cards that sort of benefit the archetype that you're playing with. But again, they are pretty pricey, and you have to be able to keep them there long enough. And if you play this card very first, then obviously you're not going to play any sort of power because you have to sort of play right after that, then you start getting the benefits of it. So it does start off slow, but it does get much better. Next is Feigned Death. This is the scoia'tael. This one's interesting because this one's cheaper than the other 4 that I've seen so far. So this will be interesting. So anyway, this is one supports the elves. So on the prologue, you summon Elven Deadeye, then 2 Elven Deadeyes, and then Waylay. So Elven Deadeyes are those harmony cards, 3 power. So this one will give you more harmony pretty much as you keep going. So this will be pretty interesting. So if you get all your elves sort of out of the way before you start playing other cards with other race cards for scoia'tael harmony, then you get sort of more harmony engine. So if you combine this with the Water of Brokilon, then you're gonna have a crap ton of harmony cards to work with. So no matter how many times your opponent tries to get rid of them, they probably will never be able to do it just because of this, which would be pretty cool. So next, we got the Masquerade Ball. This is Nilfgaard's scenario, and this one works with aristocrats. So we noticed that certain cards did get aristocrat key tag. We will most of these Nilfgaard cards have aristocrats. I think all of them do so far. Yeah, I think they all do. And I think certain cards that are currently in the game already before the expansion also got added with the aristocrat key tag. So we'll take a look at those as well. So Spawn a Thirsty Dane, which we just saw, which again, if an opponent gets a status, then it gets boosted. Then you play Fangs of the Empire, and then you play Fangs of the Empire again. So there is that for Nilfgaard. So I'm going kind of fast because again, there's just a lot of cards I think we gotta cover. This one actually is not of course it's a special card. It's a crime card. So this card sort of gives you different abilities depending on what gang type. So there's sort of supporting sort of the clan diversity for Syndicate. So the more variety of clans you have, the stronger this card gets. So if you control the blind eyes, you increase all other effects by 1. Not sure what this means. Are we talking boosts, damage, etc.? And is that permanent, or is that just for the turn that it's played? Not sure. If you control a Crown Splitters, then you can boost an allied unit with the lowest power by 4. Cut-ups, then you damage an enemy unit with the highest power by 4. If you have Firesworn, you can spawn 2 Firesworn Zealots. And if you control Tide Cloaks, you gain 4 coins. So essentially, if you have all those on the field, you will get all of these abilities. And that is a lot of power for a 12 power card. So we might see a sort of diverse Syndicate deck, which I think is very possible just because of how well they work together, because all of those cards really revolve around one thing: crowns. So that is going to be this is going to make Syndicate actually a lot stronger than it actually is already, because you got other factions like monsters who rely on Death Wish, Thrive, 2 different scenarios. Thrive can work with any other deck, but Death Wish can't really work with Thrive too well. You want to be able to have cards that can have a 2-way relationship. You don't want to have it just one-sided. Syndicate is everyone works together here. This card just made it possible, and that is going to be super tough. Next, we got Passiflora. This one is the Syndicate's scenario card. So every time you play a unit with Fee, so this one supports the Fee. You spawn a Passiflora Peaches, and then you play another card with Feed, then you can play Swindle, and then Eavesdrop. So this is big money maker right here. Like, this will make you enough money to sort of last a while, but obviously you don't want to do this at once, because I believe this is going to produce you, because between Swindle and Eavesdrop, you can produce up to 10 coins. Not good, right? So you want to be able to spend your money while being able to play this card's progressive abilities. So you want to be careful about how soon. This one you can sort of take your time with playing, as long as they don't destroy it, of course. So yeah, you want to be careful with this one as well, because you don't want to use it all at once. Next, we got the Desert Treasure. I believe this is a token card, letting you spawn and play a random legendary unit from any faction. This can be a double-edged sword, because not only does it give you that additional power, but it can also give you extra abilities that you might not expect that will sort of swing the tide. So this is going to be a hit or miss kind of token. So next, we have a next card called the Penitent. This is a monster card, a Thrive card. And on Death Wish, you can summon a 7-cost unit from your deck. So again, this is one of those cards where it's like, if you destroy this card, it's going to get even better, because if you have Pugo Boombreaker in your deck, let's say he has a 7 provision for 10 power, it can just get summoned straight to the field without having to use its ability to damage a random unit by 3, which is always tough to do. Penitent does that. So damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if you keep it onto the field, it's going to get stronger. It's just another Thrive engine, but if you get rid of it, it's going to summon a 10 power card, when honestly, which one is going to be better, right? So you can also, again, use this card as a sort of consume unit once you've sort of powered it up enough, if your opponent is too scared to destroy it, and then you still get that sort of extra 10 power. I'm just using Pugo Boombreaker as an example because it's a super strong card for a 7 provision. You can also use it for Imperial Manticore if you want to add another Death Wish card to the deck. Death Wish card to the field. So there is that option as well. Next, we have the Sayer Quan. This one's an interesting card because after 2 of your turns, you boost yourself by 10 at the end of the turn. Essentially means if you keep your defender alive long enough, Sayer Quan is gonna go up to 10. So this one will be pretty interesting. But again, because of the amount of Purify that we're probably still going to see, then Sayer Quan might not be so powerful unless you can prevent it from getting damaged. So if you combine it with, let's say, a Sakris from Skellige or a Syndicate, then Sayer Quan gets that big power boost. Again, this could be one of those cards where you can probably play in a short round because it only takes 2 turns for this thing to activate. And as long as you keep your defender, it's going to be a lot harder to get rid of defenders in a very short round. So this could work well in the short round. Next, we have the Crow Mother. This art was revealed in the stream. This is a druid, and on deploy, you spawn 2 crows. And whenever you play an alchemy card, you can summon this card from your graveyard to a random allied row. This is like the version of, I forgot the name of the card from Northern Realms, where it keeps coming back whenever you play a soldier. But this is sort of that version of it for Skellige, and it's actually pretty strong. Because you can play the Crow Mother in the first turn pretty much, and then if it gets destroyed for whatever reason, just play an alchemy card and it comes right back. You get that 3 power. So this card is just going to keep coming back when the more alchemy cards you have. So this card could end up being, sort of a nuisance because it's just going to keep coming back. Sort of help support that res aspect from Skellige. That's something they've always done. That's like one of their strengths, is being able to res from the graveyard. So I like that we have sort of that for the summon. This one with the Crow Messengers. Next, we got the Beast. This card is good for sort of dominance decks, because if this card, at the end of your turn, whenever this card is not the strongest unit, it gets boosted by 2. So if you have Old Spear Tip, this card gets boosted every turn until it gets to 12. If you have, let's say, like an Ozo with 14, same thing, it'll go up to 14. If you have, like, you know, any cards with consume, so pretty much the more you strengthen your monsters, the stronger this card gets. But again, you want to be careful, right? Because you got cards that can do instant damage, that can destroy your high. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of tall removal cards coming in. You're gonna see more Ignis, maybe Leo Bonhearts for Nilfgaard, and you kind of get the idea. Or the Karathi Heatwave too. Next, we got Etriel. This is sort of a 2-part full potential card. So on deploy, you just damage a unit by 3, but if you have a Murliga, then you just damage it by 7 instead. This is good for a tall removal, decent tall removal. But you can only use the control abilities of one of these two unless you play a card that sort of lets them bring it back to the hand or to the deck, and then you bring it out. Somehow manage to res one of them and bring back the other, but you probably don't want to spend too much time doing that. It's just too much setting up to do. So this one is used for tall removal. This one is good for spread damage. So for this one, it's sort of the similar deploy, but if you control Etriel, which means you play this first and you just do the 3, but if you play this one right after and you have the control ability activated, you do spread damage on adjacent rows. So potentially this one is stronger because you can do 9 damage. Actually, no, sorry. This one at full potential, this is actually stronger. You do 10 damage. This one is 9, but it is spread damage. So you can actually use it, like if they want to get greedy with their Mystic Echo Dwarves, play those 4 Dwarven Mercenaries, then Merliga, you can destroy 3 of them with its deploy ability if you play this card first. And this card on its own already damages it by 3, so you can destroy the last one first. You can destroy one of them first, and then this one destroys the other 3. So these 2 alone can get rid of all of Mystic Echo Dwarves, which is pretty insane. And it's pretty tall damage too. Next, we got Saul de Navaret. This is a horde-based card. So the more coins you hoard, the more powerful it gets. So at least we're getting boost engines for horde too, which is pretty cool. So you're finally starting to see support for all of these sort of keywords that previously didn't get much support, but now they're getting more, and I'm liking that. Next, we got the War Chariot. So it's one of those, again, row reliant cards. I think we're seeing that mostly with Northern Realms, but I believe I saw one with Nilfgaard as well. So you can give either bleeding for 4 turns, or you can move an enemy unit. But if it's surrounded by 2 soldiers, then you can have both abilities, which is pretty cool. You can disrupt and you can do progressive damage, which is nice for a 7 for 5 only. So potentially you can go up to 9 for 7. Not to mention you can do engine disruption, which is pretty nice. Next, we got Axel 3 Eyes. It's another one of those row reliant cards. So you can either spawn a crow, or you can boost self by 1 for each allied beast. So the more crows you summon, the more powerful this card gets. So this is sort of the end game for, you know, for all those crows you've been summoning throughout the game. So that's for Axel 3 Eyes. It's kind of similar to Zoltan Warrior from scoia'tael. It's not as strong, but I think this one has the capability of summoning more crows. So for Skellige. Next, we got Vernociel. This card does have a support. I forgot what it was. I think it was the Elven Deadeyes. So each Elven Deadeye damages a random enemy unit by 2, or if you put in the range row, you can spawn 2 Elven Deadeyes. The melee row obviously is much stronger if you can summon more Elven Deadeyes before playing this card. Usually, like if you can't play sort of the stronger ability, it kind of lets you compensate by summoning more for control. That's what I've noticed what these cards are doing. This one's obviously the stronger version, because being able to damage a unit by 2 for each Elven Deadeye that you have is actually pretty powerful. You can potentially get a lot of value out of this. Of course, your Elven Deadeyes have to be able to stay on the board. So if your opponent has sort of spread damage, you're kind of screwed. But if they don't, then this guy's gonna get a crap ton of value. Next, you got Philippe van Vorlehem. So we're having more vampires are coming into Nilfgaard, which is cool. And this is an engine. This is sort of similar to Black Rayla, only it's for Nilfgaard, of course, and it's reliant on status. So if the target you're trying to attack has status, it damages it by 2 instead of 1, and you can do that per turn. So this is the Nilfgaard version of Black Rayla. Next, you got Ludovicus Brunebomb, syndicate card. So after 3 turns, you gain 6 coins, or on tribute 4, you gain 6 coins immediately. So essentially, if you decide to wait the 3 turns, so combine it with, let's say, the defenders, then you can get those 6 coins, or you can just get them right away, but you'll only have you're just getting the 2 coins extra, but that might make a decent difference. Like if you want to play Moriel rather early, or if you have a unit that you want to play Philippa on and you can't really wait another turn to play more coins because you might be afraid that it gets boosted, then this card might not be so bad to play. Next, we got the Lamp Jinn. This one's a product of one of the stratagems, which we'll get to. Next is Morale. Again, we're seeing more of that poison. So on deploy, you poison. On order, you poison. So this card has the potential to sort of kill a card if it doesn't get purified sort of in between. It doesn't have Zeal, so it's not how it works. But being able to remove units with poison is still pretty strong. And with a card, and if there's a card that only takes 1 to do that, then that makes it even stronger, as long as the poison stays intact. Next, we have the Immortals. So we're seeing more shield. So this is a pretty good shield engine, because whenever this unit loses a shield, never mind. I was gonna say whenever a unit loses shield, this card is boosted by 2. I think that'd be a bit too powerful. And at the end of your turn, get shield. So you can play 2 Damn Sorceress on Immortals, potentially get boost from the Damn Sorceress and 2 from the Immortals, which is pretty powerful. Not to mention you can do it again. So we're seeing more shield support, which is great. We're almost at the end of this, guys. Bear with me here. Next, we got Vincent Val Morlehem. Destroy an enemy unit with status. Straight simple. I think this card is going to be pretty powerful, because you put like a status unit on a super strong monster, Vincent just straight up removes it, and it's a deploy. It's not even an order. I think that actually makes this really powerful. I think so. This card's going to be good for tall removal. Next, we got Van Morlehem's Cupbearer. It is an Assimilate, and again, it's one of those row-dependent cards. So on melee, you can poison a unit, and on range, you can purify a unit. I think I see this card being used more as a purify. I know that we're seeing a lot more cards that can poison, but I still think that Defender is still a bit too powerful. So I'm probably going to see this more with purify, because you're probably going to want to use poison for like those really powerful tall units. But it is an Assimilate, so it will get some value as well the longer it stays in the field. So probably would work well, Assimilate Nilfgaard. Not to mention you can add probably a poison card or 2 in there to sort of work with its melee ability. Next, and what I think that this card is kind of powerful, we got the Matahuri. If neither player has passed and your opponent's hand is not full, they draw the lowest cost and you draw the highest cost. That's going to be tough, because you can draw your scenario card from this if your scenario is still in your hand, and they probably would have to be forced to like play an engine. I think I'm going to see this card played quite a bit. Not to mention it's a 6 power card. That's actually really strong for only 9 provision. I don't know how I feel about this card. I can see this card being overused quite a lot already, and even though I haven't even seen it played yet. Next, we got 2 sort of partner cards. You got Dula Kamani and we got Rune Rife. So they sort of do the same ability, in which case if the other card is on the field already, you can spawn a Desert Treasure, which essentially means that you can play it, you're only gonna get a chance to play 1 Desert Treasure, and if you don't remember, Desert Treasure lets you spawn and play a random legendary from any faction. But if you combine this with, let's say, a Strategic Withdrawal, then you can play another Desert Treasure, which lets you spawn 2 legendaries. So it could allow it to become a bit stronger, but again, it really depends on what comes out of it. If it's a card like Roach or Knickers, probably not going to work, right? But, it's a bit of a risk, but you don't know. It's risk versus reward, right? How much risk are you willing to take? I guess that's why it's only a 7 for 6, because... But even then, like, you get the additional power. Like, even if you get a legendary with 1 power, this card already matches its provision value. And there's Geralt sort of paying the money up. So... Next, we got the Plague Maiden. On Death Wish, you can spawn 7 rats. This is pretty tough because you're filling up a whole field with rats, and you can combine it with, like, let's say a Bone Talisman or Yennefer, and you already sort of get that 1 full row. Well, 7, unless like you have 2 units there already. So Plague Maiden is actually a pretty powerful card. Like if you have 2 units on a row, and you have Plague Maiden plus 1, 2 cards plus Plague Maiden, and you play a card that eats Plague Maiden up, and you fill the rest of your row with rats, then you have enough cards to sort of, you could even Glusty Warp with this, because I believe rats are only 1 power. So this makes Glusty Warp even more powerful with the use of rats. Next, we got the War Elephant. On order, damage adjacent units by 4, then boost self by 4 for each unit damage. So you want to be careful with this because it will become a 16 for 12 if you use all of its ability, if you use all of its power, and if you use it on units with armor or even units with shield. That's also a possibility as well. Then you're gaining that extra 8 points for free. But remember, that caravan guard that we talked about, every power of 3, it's gonna deal more damage. This will be 15, since 15 is the closest multiple of 3. That's gonna be 6 damage. It's gonna be down to 10. So you gotta be careful with this as well. We're seeing a lot more cards that can do high damage removal. So that's why you're seeing more cards that also get a lot of power out of their abilities as well. Next we got Radia, and this is the last card I believe before we get to the stratagems. We're seeing a card finally that sort of has that if your card has no duplicate. So this is like the second Shoop in a way, but it's a different ability. Yeah, this one pretty much allows you to create an extra stratagem. So if this card gets pretty strong if you have no duplicates in your deck, which is pretty crazy. Because if you put this in your melee row and you have no duplicates, let's say you played like the Ouroboros Mask, which I think lets you discard and draw a card, or draw a card and then discard a card, then you can do that again, like let's say in the second or third round. So you get that extra advantage sort of. If you had red coin in the first round, and you played Radia in the second round, or if you still play in the first round, you can still get your stratagem. So it allows you to get your stratagem whether you have blue coin or red coin. If you have blue coin, it lets you get your stratagem twice. If you have red coin, it lets you guarantee play your stratagem that's in your deck. If it's on the range row, then you create a neutral stratagem. We'll go over those now actually. So these are the stratagems that they introduced, and this is actually pretty crazy. Some of these have some pretty strong effects. Like this one we saw the art for. So you got the first stratagem introduced is a neutral one. So this is one of those cards that could be spawned by Radia. It's enchanted armor. It just lets you boost a unit in your hand by 3. It doesn't look too powerful at first because you're not getting any power on the field, but it sort of helps you save up for the second turn. So if you do lose on even, this one carries over the boost as long as you don't play it from your hand. So it does. This one is still gonna leave a mark of some sort. Next, we got the Cursed Scroll. So far, actually, it's one of my favorite stratagems just because of its ability to, sort of filter out your deck thin a little bit. And sorry, not deck thin, deck filter. This is for filtering because you draw. Look at the top 3, draw 1. And then put 1 card from your hand at the bottom of your deck, which nowadays is not such a big deal because you got cards that let you play specific cards out from your deck anyway, so it doesn't matter if they're at the bottom of your deck at this point. The only card really that affects is the Vivaldi Bank, which means you just gotta pay more coins to get that card out because it's the bottom of your deck, right? But other than that, this is a pretty good stratagem. Next, you got the Ceremonial Dagger, kind of similar to Enchanted Armor, just lets you damage an enemy unit by 3. Which could be good for removing those low power engines or removing armor if they need to be removed for the exposed to work and stuff like that. This is the Magic Lamp. We saw the Lamp Djinn before, so it just lets you play a 5 power Djinn to the field. It's like Tactical Advantage pretty much, only it's a separate unit and it's the same power. Next, we got a Northern Realm specific stratagem. We have what is this called? The Engineering Solution. So this one is a shield support shield support stratagem. So it allows you, not only does it boost it by 3, but giving it a shield is good. Again, you can play with those cards that sort of let you remove shield for more power, or if it gains a shield, it gains a certain effect. So Engineering Solution is good for that. This is the Mask of Ouroboros that I use as an example. Lets you draw a card, then discard a card. This is a bit more, this adds an extra discard card for if you want to play discard Skellige. You can remove, let's say, like a Hame Skull and add in another card in there and just have the Mask of Ouroboros do that extra discarding. Next is the Urn of Shadows. It lets you trigger a bronze allied unit's Death Wish ability. So again, if you want to use the Urn of Shadow on the Pentacat or Tenet, I can't remember, the one that lets you spawn a random 7 provision card from your deck, then you can do that with the Urn of Shadows. My opinion, that's actually a pretty strong stratagem right there. If you can use that combo pretty well, it's actually pretty crazy. Next, we got the Ainsade Saber. Lets you spawn and play scoia'tael Neophyte, which I believe are elves. So this is supporting the elves one more. Next, we got the Collar. Lets you lock an enemy unit and damage it by 3. So this is more lock support as opposed to like what do you call it, as opposed to assimilate or spy support or whatever. It's like this is like half of Radovid's old hero power. If you guys remember what Radovid's hero power was when he used to be a leader in the closed beta, this is like half of it, because I believe Radovid let you lock 2 units and damage them both by 3. This one lets you just lock 1 and damage that one by 3, so that's pretty cool. Next is Tiger's Eye, which I think is the most complete out of all the coins. Most complete out of all the stratagems for all the factions, because this one can be used for any archetype in Syndicate. This one could only be used for Death Wish, so you can't really work with Dominance. I mean, you can, but not directly, you know? This one is directly working with almost any mechanic. So you got Earn the Shadows, which mostly works with Death Wish. The Eurobros mostly works with the Discard. But this can be used in any, honestly. Being able to filter through your deck is always a good thing. This one's mostly for shield, but again, it can always also be used to protect your engines if you want them to stay alive a little longer. So, looking at the surface, they only supposedly only work with one support. But they can really work with all the other mechanics in different ways as well. Now we got a Basilisk Venom. This one lets you poison, so if you want to instantly destroy a card, you can use Basilisk Venom to poison, and you can use any other poison deploy abilities to sort of finish the job. So that's pretty cool. This actually can be pretty strong as well, because you can gain more than just 5 power swings from this. And the last stratagem is Crystal Skull. You can purify an allied unit and boost it by 3. So this can be used if you're playing like a status heavy deck. Like Nilfgaard is probably going to have a status heavy deck coming up. I'll probably make one. If not, we'll probably see a couple along the way. So you can remove bounty, poison, what do you call it? I can't remember what others. Lock, so stuff like that. And it can boost it by 3. So the additional stratagems actually make it pretty interesting, because now we don't just have to worry about tactical advantage being the only sort of stratagem that exists for blue coin anymore. You can actually customize it, and it actually helps with sort of optimizing your deck a little bit better. I'm gonna expect quite a few Radias being used, especially like if they are on blue coin. And the fact that it's only a 10 for 8, I think they should be a little bit lower in power, in my opinion. Because the fact that it's 8 power on its own is actually pretty powerful to begin with. But being able to spawn your own stratagem, of course, the hard part is it has to have no duplicates. So again, the most balanced the most balanced factions I see right now are Syndicate and Scoia'tael. So you can get away with making no duplicate decks for those and still get sort of the full benefit. But I was seeing a bit more no duplicate Northern Realms decks from time to time. So maybe Northern Realms is getting a bit of support when it comes to that one as well. So I'm probably going to stop the video here because I'm already half an hour long. Maybe I'll do a short little video on sort of the developer's notes for what mechanics have been changed, what card balances have been changed, and I'll just sort of let you guys know my take on how they affect current decks that they're probably not going to see any gameplay anymore, or certain decks that got boosted so they can be seen play more. And we're definitely going to relate the stratagems and sort of some of the new cards. So like a video if you guys enjoyed this, of course, and leave a comment on what you guys thought of these cards, any cards you'd like to see that maybe are a little bit different, or if you guys just like them, because I personally like them. They're all pretty cool. I like the artwork as well. It really gives a certain distinction as to, like, you know, the theme around this expansion. So I was really happy with it. And of course, subscribe for more Gwent videos. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out. Catch you guys in the next one.